Okay. And so Elementor 3.7 dropped and had the notes thing in there and the stripe button and one other deal, but the notes functionality was something I thought could be very helpful because I've used standalone products to do that. So we opted to just do that last month, and so we're picking up the workflow series again this month. So it's and what we're going to do this time. Last time we talked about setting up a starter site, sort of a templated, well, not templated, a pre-staged, if you will, site that has all the plugins and the theme that you use and configured the way you like. And whenever it came, you need to do it, you have it already set up. And when it comes time to build a new site, you just make a copy of that, build from that, rather than have to go in and set up all the plugins again and put the licenses in and all the stuff that we all have to go through. So that and some other things what we talked about last time. This time we're going to talk about what Elementor calls a design system, and that's largely using the in site settings, doing the global fonts, the global colors, and the theme styles. So we'll go through all that. What we're going to do, this is a page that I've set up that has kind of basic and some not so basic HTML elements.
Gary, you're not sharing.
Thank you. That's interesting. Are you able to see that now?
There you go.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to use this as our style guide, and with our fonts and colors. And then we're going to, this is a page that just has brand styling elements, all the fonts, H1s. I didn't go through H down to H6. The body text, some links, a button, pricing table, icon list, an image, and then an Elementor form. And then we'll just go through using the site settings. Let me close this out. So in case you've not used that before, so you set up a page any way you like, just with something for you to work with. And then we can click on the hamburger menu, go to site settings, and then we can go to, we'll go with global colors and global fonts first. But I want to mention before we go any further that all the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight and what we talked about 2 months ago, you want to do this before you actually really start building the site. Because what we're doing, we're laying a foundation, a framework for building out the site with the styles and the look and feel that we want. And rather than having to, basically what we're going to do is we're going to take the information that's in here and some other information and just build it into the website. So sometimes, I don't know if you've ever done websites for somebody and they have a designer, then they give you a style guide, or they give you a Figma file or a Photoshop file that you've got to go back and forth. This will all be kind of built into the website. So we can do that, but why would we want to do this? Well, aside from what I just mentioned about all that information being stored on the website, you don't have to go reference I mean, you still keep your style guides. You don't have to keep going back and forth every time you design a page. It'll make building the site faster, because once you've got all your styles set up, when you're building out a page, some of the sizes and fonts and colors will automatically be set when you designate whether it's an H1 or an H2, or whether it's a link or whatnot. But if you do need to change it, it's easy to change, and because we have the global colors to do, and then it will make it, and this will be even more, save more time. Is, let's say you build a site and it only has 25 pages, and you build it and you have a particular font set and it's running happily along for a year, and then they decide they want to rebrand a little bit and they want to change all the fonts. Well, used to be you'd have to go in and change all the fonts, at least with Elementor. But now, if let's say they wanted the headings rather be Montserrat to be Roboto, all you'd have to go into the typography under theme styles, and you get to H1 and set it, and it would change everywhere in the site, as long as you didn't override it in the actual Elementor settings. So one thing you want to make sure you do before you do this, you go to Elementor settings, and let's see here. I thought I already did this. Okay. Let me make sure. Reload this. Okay. We've seen these before, and this is confusing. It says checking this box will disable Elementor's default colors and make Elementor inherit the colors from your theme. Well, we don't want that, so we're going to uncheck that. And then one other thing we're going to do, well, we'll get to that in a sec. Let's reload this. Got too many things here. Okay. Reload that. Okay, so let's start working on this here. So we're going to go to the hamburger menu, site settings, global colors. Now there are 4 default colors, and you can see the primary, secondary, text, and accent. Primary colors are used for headings and icons largely. Secondary colors are used for list items, subheadings, animated headings, price table backgrounds. Text colors are used for paragraphs and menu items, and accent colors are things like links, button backgrounds, tab and accordion headlines, and badges. Just kind of a general sense of what they're used for. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start setting some colors, and we're going to be using this as our colors, these items here. So let's go and start editing. Here. So we're going to have the primary be the blue that we saw. Swap that in there. Of course, we can see that turned to blue and that turned to blue. I don't know if you can see that. That turned to blue too. And then we're going to, for our secondary color, we're going to use this rust color. Get rid of that. And we'll pop that in there. Okay, now we can see that this was set to the secondary color. It's affected this, and these, and that. And then we'll add the next color, which is going to be the CGB text. Copy that. I think that's already there. And then this last one, we'll make it a green. Okay, so we can see things already happening. Now, sometimes you might want to have additional colors than other than these, and you can have custom colors. I threw in white earlier, and then one specifically for button text color. I'm going to add another one. As we see, we've got over here in this guide, we've got a gold. So we'll add this color. Pop that in there. And then we've got one that I calling a blue wash, that we could use this for like a section on a page. You have a white section and then a sort of not exactly a gray section, but I'm calling it a blue wash. And then this little thumbnail thing, you can't really see it, but it's slightly blue. And then we'll add one more. We're going to call this CGB dark blue. Okay, so now I'll update. So we've done the basic colors. Then we can go back to the global fonts. And what I've done here, we can see that we've got, I just made it all open sans. So I just went in and made all the open sans, made them all open sans, and a couple of them, I think at the primary is bold. The rest I just left them as open sans, and then font size we can set in the theme settings. So we've got the global colors looked at, the global fonts, and now the typography. Before we do that, let's take a look at, let's close this. Just look at some of this stuff. Okay, we got this H1. We go to style, we'll see it's got the blue that we picked. And you see that this little globe for global is blue. It means it's active. If it's white like this, that means the global font is not set for this as of this point. And then it would be the same for here. And you hover over it, it'll give you the name of, actually that is, okay. Let's see here. Let's look at this. The list item. Go to style, go to icon. The icon is the CGB blue, and the text is the rust. And then if you wanted to change these things, we'll go in and edit some of these in a bit. So let's go back to our site settings and typography. Wow, it's a lot. So let's see. And you can see here, this is telling us that for things to work that we have to disable default colors, which we have already done. So let's see here. Fixed color is going to be that. Typography is going to be text. Update. One of the things I've noticed in this is sometimes you have to reload the page because sometimes all your options don't show up. But then we have for link color, let's choose for the link. Let's make it the rust. And I'm not going to change the typography since it would inherit it. And then on the hover, let's make it that blue. And then for H1, I'm going to go with this. And typography, what did we say here? 50 pixels. Okay, these are preset. So H2, color. We'll leave it blue. Typography, it's secondary. And then H3. Let's pick it. Interesting. So what let's do, let's go back to this, update. And the site settings, typography. Color RGB. Not sure why that's not changing, unless let's make it more obvious. Update. Let's reload. Well, I'm not going to spend a great deal of time on this, but it is annoying. Okay. Well, we'll put it back to the way it was. And we'll figure that out later. H4, H5, colors are, let's make that too. And
Eric, doesn't change for H3 because you don't have the global setting for the color, for the typography on the H3.
hang on a sec. Okay, say that again.
On the H3 typography is not on the global settings.
Right. Yep. So we would either have to, you can go as granular as you want for the fonts. Right now it's primary, secondary, but we could go in and set, add H1s, H2s. But the way this works is the global fonts and global colors are, well, let's reference something real quick because I had a link in here. There we go. I'm just going to give you the link to this article. Here we go. About what's the difference between theme styles and design system global colors. The theme styles set fallback styles, style definitions, and so on. They are not Elementor specific. And then the global colors are additional styles that lay on top of the theme styles. And it's my understanding too that and the global styles take precedence. So that's probably why. So with that little bit of information, we might have learned something. I lost my place. It said there was a place that said one takes precedence. Here we go. Sits on top of the theme style and takes precedence. This okay, so it's the global ones. So let's do a little. Go to global colors and we can add H3. 3. Oh. So we'll go H3. And we'll get this, we'll steal this green here. And then we'll do this. Update. And then we'll go back. So the global styles take, or the global set, these here take precedence over the theme styles. So let's go back to typography. And let's see if we have any options. Let's reload. There we go. Okay. So the global colors and global fonts take precedence over here. This is sort of your basic, generic vanilla, but your base set of styles. I also believe that if you haven't set any styles in your theme, then these, even though you've set them in Elementor, they will bleed over into the styles of your non-Elementor pages too. At least that's what I believe I read according to the documentation. So, okay, now let's get back on track. So we had a good learning experience there. Where do we go with H3? So let's see, H4, we're gonna leave all that the same. Okay, so we'll save that. And I wonder if we might want to make the body text a little bit bigger. But we do that. Global fonts, text. Let's see. Will this work? Global Okay. Then we go to buttons. Okay, so we have a button down here. So we're going to typography is going to be open sans, and text color is white. The background type is we're going to make color, and we're going to make it some. Actually, I don't want that. I want that to be click this. Well, let me do something here. Seem to have a cache issue here. Okay, let's take a look at this again. So the background color is set to be, there we go. And we set hover, color, green. And now we're cooking with gas. And then we might want to tweak the topography a bit. Oh, I know what I want to do. Gonna tweak this just a tad. I'm gonna make it uppercase. And got the going here. This is okay. We can see here that we've got the color of the main, of what they're calling it, the shape. You pick that color, and then the headline. They're automatically picking them from, because this is actually an H3. And I think we might have set this style, the headline. Well, let's go back to, that's cool. And we set the link here, back in the, let's say update. And go to hamburger menu, colors. Okay. That's topography. So we set the color for the link to be this, and the blue on the rollover. And then the topography is, only thing we changed is bold. So we're good for that. So then let's say we wanted to edit some stuff here. And we're going to go to style. And we've got the background color. Let's make it, when we did blue, we do it that way. Now let's make it the orange, and then we can maybe make the ribbon blue. And we might make the pricing blue. And then we could go in and change other items here too. So what we're going to do is update. And site settings. And we're going to go to images. And we can set global styles for images too. We could do things like do border radiuses on them. We could do a box shadow, but this would show up on every image unless you took it away. So I'm gonna pause for a second. I need to run and go take care of something in another room. Brian, you want to field any questions that might come up while I'm away?
I surely can.
I'll be right back.
All right. Anybody have any questions on anything Carrie's gone over so far, or anything else you might have pressing?
Yes, I have a question, Brian. I'm seeing that Kerry's defining is making styles on the button itself, not on the side settings. Why is he doing that? See, he's making the changes for that button, but I'm quite sure that if you drag and drop another button, it's not going to look exactly like the one that we have right now.
No, it should. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's not taking the default settings from the side settings.
No, he's in site setting. You see in the top left?
Yeah, he's right now, but he was
He
doing
wasn't earlier.
changes on the button itself. And there's another question in regards of why are we using pixels for the font size instead of rems?
That no particular reason.
There's a big issue on that, and let me elaborate a little bit on that.
Okay.
If you use, let's say, 18 pixels, or let's say for a big title, 24 pixels or 32 pixels,
Right.
it's going to be 32 pixels also on the mobile device, because pixels are pixels, regardless of the device. If you define it on rems, then you can make changes, and people with disabilities, many of them defined the size of one rem different than the 18 point that is the default for the browsers. See?
So you're concerned more from an accessibility standpoint.
No, I'm not concerned more about that. I'm just concerned about accessibility, because accessibility must be a standard on every development. See, so if we use pixels, we're just going to be leaving those people with disabilities in a big problem. So I personally, I'd rather use 1 rem, 2 rems, 3 rems, and that way things accommodate to the size of the browser. If you use pixels, it's going to be pixels, regardless of
So are you saying now, this would be new to me. So you're saying that, let's say that I make a headline that's, because usually a rem or an EM, or I know there's M's and rems, is around 16 pixels roughly.
18.
It's 18.
I mean 16, you're right.
That's 16 pixels. So,
16.
so let's say it was 2 rems.
Rims are much more responsive.
Yes.
Okay. So
Definitely.
you're saying that if it was, let's say we set a headline to 2 rems,
That's
that
going
would
to be
be say
32
32 pixels.
That's going to be 32, right?
Okay.
And you
But
can
you're
do
saying
10.
that is, and that's on a desktop. that as the browser window shrinks, that you don't have to set new dimensions for that pixel in the responsive settings of Elementor, that it will change by itself, or
No, let me see if I find a better way to
It changes for people that have disabilities and they've got their browsers set differently. And
oh, you're
their
talking about
browser
what the
automatically
accessibility tools added to the browser. Is that what you're saying?
hold on, let me give me 1 minute. I search a better way of explaining this, and I'll be right back on the topic, please.
Okay, Nico, did you have, or Nikkei, did you have a question?
Well, I wanted to see if I could explain on the REM, because
Okay.
what happens is that when it's with REM, it will scale with the size of the font will scale with the size of the screen. So it'll be standard. So if you do to REM, it'll be, it'll kind of scale down. I'm not even explaining this right either, but
Yeah.
it's more responsive in that it will, if the set size of the default size of the font in a browser is 16, or it's 12, or it's 14, then REM will be a factor of that size. So you get a better, when you go from one screen size to the other, one browser size to the other, it'll scale better than pixels that are static and will
Right.
be size no matter the size of the screen.
Well, let's see if that works. I don't see it getting any smaller. Am I missing something, Nikkei and Oscar?
What was the question?
Well, the idea was, at least what I was interpreting that Nikkei was saying, was that you do it in REMs, and as the browser window gets smaller, the text adjusts size. And I don't see it doing that.
No, because you're still on the same browser.
Oh, you're talking about a,
You're still on the browser, but bear with me. If you go to in your Chrome browser, if you go to the three dots on the top right, you go to settings, and then you go to appearance, and then you define the font size, medium. It's the default, but you could make it very small or very large, and that's going to change. That's going to change the size of the REM on the
gotcha.
on the website. I mean,
Gotcha.
on the browser.
Appearance.
Yes. You go
Got
to
it.
three dot settings, appearance, and you go to font size.
So you're saying that the end user can change all this stuff? Yeah.
Right. And
Right.
people with disabilities, let's say if you're short-sighted, then you're going to make it very large. But if you still put it on 18 pixels, it's going to be still 18 pixels.
Right.
If you use REMs, it's going to be, let's say 2 REMs is going to be twice the regular very large size that you have. See, so it's just a matter of accessibility.
Okay. So,
Oscar, if I may ask, other than accessibility, are there any other reasons to use REMs? Because I think that's where I was a little unclear. I know for accessibility it's important, but if there were, if you left that at medium, is there any other behaviors?
It's more responsive, period.
It's more responsive because the RAM on the browser of the mobile phone, of the smartphone, I think it's set to 14 instead of 16 by default.
That's exactly what I was wondering. So some devices, the base value is set different,
Right.
as opposed to 16. Got it. Okay.
Right.
Got it.
Right.
And
That's why I stopped using pixels on any font definition for a long time. I mean,
Think
probably
of pixels as static and rem as dynamic.
you're right, Dennis.
Good points. Good points.
Exactly. So I just posted a definition that I got from the internet and the link that I think will be helpful.
Okay. Let's see here.
Juan has a question.
Okay, Juan, fire away.
Yes, thank you. Talking about this, about RAM versus pixels, does that help in some way for position with Google? I mean, for SEO, is there an advantage or nothing happens?
You're asking if using rims or pixels affects SEO results?
Yes, if Google, I don't know, let's say like this, if Google prefers RAM than pixels, and then we say this will be in a better position than the other website that use pixels. Does that happen or it doesn't?
Well, you never know what are the factors that Google takes into consideration. I would guess, I mean, for the information I have, Google takes into consideration on every single query over 200 different factors to rank a page. It's not rare to me, it wouldn't be rare to me that one of those over 200 factors may be that little detail of accessibility, probably, but we don't know what
Right.
Google takes into consideration. I mean, there's no list to be able to respond yes or no.
Well, and it makes some difference to Google when they do mobile tests, because if your mobile screen is unreadable because the text is too small,
Yeah.
then
If you're hooked up
you get a
to,
hit for that.
if you're, let's see what, they don't call it that. Google Search Console, I think it used to be Webmaster Tools, or maybe it's the other way around.
Yeah, no, it's GSC.
GSC?
Yeah, Google Search Console.
Right. If you have a website hooked up to that, and you're the administrator, sometimes you can get an email from Google saying, we noticed some issues on this website. One of the most common things that they'll say is the text is too small.
And buttons are too close.
Exactly. Now they don't tell you, well, what's the minimum size? What's the right size? They don't tell you.
Nor which button.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And I was at a word camp, it's probably 4 or 5 years ago now. Well, I know it was before 2019, because that was the last year I went to a word camp. There was a lady that was doing a talk, I believe it was on accessibility. And this came up. I guess it was actually what it was about was this was during the period of time when Google was starting to really make changes in its ranking algorithm. And one of the new things that was going to happen is they were going to penalize you if you did not have a mobile version of your site. And so then we got to talk about mobile, and I mentioned particularly those two things you just mentioned, the thing about the messages about your font size are too small and then the buttons are too close together. And I asked the same question I just did, and she said, nobody knows. Kind of to Oscar's point. It's, but I could see how that the rims could help with that. And I don't know if Google has any special way to, well, I know that accessibility is an issue for Google. They might have a particular accessibility version of a mobile browser that they use. I'm not sure. So this is the page that Nikkei offered up. So the link's in chat if you didn't see it. Thank you, Nikkei.
So Kerry, you say that maybe, just maybe, if we use RAM instead of pixels, we can avoid those kind of issues in Google Search Console?
Well, I think it depends. I mean, I think you could. The challenge is, like what Oscar was talking about, the base font size that you're working with is not set necessarily by you. It's could be set by the user. Like Oscar was just showing us that you can set your base font size in Chrome. And if you're you have trouble seeing, you might set that font size really big, and it would, but that would not affect a phone. You'd have to make those changes on the phone. But that's the
Or
only
a
thing I
web
can think
browser.
of. Sorry?
Or a desktop browser, according to what the person with disability is using.
Right. Yeah, I can do it it would certainly be a desktop. What we were just looking at a few minutes ago, that would certainly be a desktop. So I have to give that a think.
I wanted to
what's
just
your thoughts, Brian, on the REM question?
Say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't.
I know it's late, getting the evenings, zoning out. I do it sometimes. What's your thoughts on the REM question? Or is it just something that each person, that's their own?
No, I like Oscar have moved to RAM because of the accessibility. If it's not one of the ranking features, which we most likely think it is, it will be, because accessibility is so is so one of those things that Google is trying to focus on. So yeah, I moved the RAM probably. When did the European
GDPR?
GDPR, yeah, when did that come out?
That's about 3 years ago.
Yeah, that was probably around the
3
time
or 4 years
I
ago.
started hearing about RAM. Yeah.
I did a little bit of poking around on it while we were talking, and everything I can see says that that whether it's a desktop or mobile browser, they continue to use the 16 pixels as a base that I can find. But what a lot of people do, if it works for their design, is they will redefine that because it's relative to the base HTML, the base HTML container. So you can redefine it in that, basically your base font, your font size in that, and that will affect your, all your REMs could be smaller. So you could basically make them half the size. So you could in mobile, change that base just for mobile, and then everything that you've used REMs for would be smaller. The thing about it is with designs, and so people don't often do that anymore, because sometimes you will have to, if all your designs are in REM, sometimes you might not want everything kind of shrunk up in the same way, because for mobile you may be making something on one, like that maybe it's a 3-column situation, you want to make it 1 column, so you really have to kind of do those individually. So what people are doing with REM, that I can find at least, is that they're using it, but they're leaving it at 16, and they're using it for accessibility, and then they're using calculators to break down from pixels to that, because basically you're using, in a sense, another form of pixel, with the advantage that somebody who prefers to see it either smaller or larger due to whatever accessibility reasons can override the entire site, whereas they cannot do that with pixels so easily.
You're saying it can override the entire site?
Yeah, but that relies on changing that browser settings, which are all defaulted to 16 as far as I can find. There may be cases where they're not, but that if you go, and you can also change that yourself, whether that refers to 16 as change that base default, in your by taking the HTML container and changing the font size of it. But if you do that, then everything that is based on rem in your design is going to be altered. So not just your text sizes, but your relation, your size of boxes or buttons or whatever.
Right.
So there may be too global of a control, because when you're doing things for mobile, you're often kind of raising the size of some things, lowering it of others, and that wouldn't translate totally properly. But for accessibility, it's very good to use, I think, as Oscar mentioned, because if you don't do that, then everything is by the pixel, and then that makes it very hard for people that have vision issues and other issues where they require it to be larger.
I don't size boxes and things in pixels or rims. I use percent. And then you don't have that problem.
Yeah, all depends on what you're doing.
That's another good practice.
25% is 25%, regardless of the screen size.
Yeah, all depends on what you're doing, but so it's going to be design dependent is what I'm getting at. So it's not like necessarily it's you just redefine your base and say, okay, I want it to be 12 instead of 16 in your particular mobile size, and everything will behave right. There might be cases, I'm referring to even like just text. There might be cases where you would want that to be, in some cases, a little larger on mobile, because now it's taking one column instead of 4.
That makes sense to everybody?
Except I'm not sure I see where you set that on the design side.
From looking into it, basically what you would do is you would redefine at the HTML container itself. So you'd have to associate a style with I don't think I think you'd have to use the custom CSS option in Elementor to do it, but you would redesign, you would reset the font size in the HTML container. I personally think it's better to leave it at the 16, because that probably makes life easier.
And that's kind of a standard.
Exactly.
Okay, well,
That was fun.
yeah, let's all use rims now.
Debate. Good debate.
So let's.
I've been using rims for about a year.
Well, a lot. I think I might have been tainted against that, because unfortunately, I have a lot of my eggs in one basket, and I do a lot of work for one particular marketing firm. And the lady who runs the marketing firm, rims wouldn't be granular enough for font sizes. I mean, she'll get in there and say, "Oh, can you make that headline 2 pixels shorter?" And so I'll have to re-educate her.
But there are rem calculators that you can use that will calculate the rem for whatever pixel size.
You don't really need that, because
Plus you can use
one
two
rem
for
is
the rem.
16, 2 rems is 32, 1.5 is 16 plus 8 is 24. It's pretty simple. Gary,
What I understand what Mark is saying.
Yeah, if you wanted to go from like,
people that say, it might be 22 pixels is the size of a
Right.
headline, and they say, "Can you make that 23?" And I guess you'd have to go in and do the calculation. It might be, 1.4278 rems,
exactly.
but
But with rims, you can do that.
yeah, but let me, Kerry, allow me to share a screen for a second. I want to share something with you.
okay,
Of Chrome.
go ahead.
See, right here, I'm in settings, appearance, and I can come here and customize font. And my font size right now is the default, which is 16.
Right,
I can move it to whatever I want.
right.
And that's the size of my rem. This is the size of my rem on my browser. The default is 16.
So you only have a certain amount of, well, you have a lot of control, and I suspect, except for people with disability and such, that most people don't know that you can even do this. I mean,
Because we don't need it. But people with disabilities, they do need it, and they do use it,
And they know.
and they know. That's my point.
okay,
And this is what the REM size is.
gotcha. Okay, well, these are really good points.
Yeah, I'm sorry to have interrupted, but I thought it was important.
No, I agree. We can all learn something. So let's see here. I can let's see here. Okay, Nikkei was going to share a converter. Okay, so let's see if we can figure out where we were.
But the best way to convert is just divide the size you want in pixels.
Yeah, Adam already shared one.
The best thing you can do is just divide the size in pixels by 16. And that's going to give you the number of REMs for the standard 16.
Yep, okay, got it. Okay. So we did this, but okay. And so we looked at the image, we got the forms. Now, the global styles or the site settings, theme settings for
You're not
Yeah,
sharing.
share your
right,
screen.
right. Yep. Zoom.
It'll be good. It'll help.
Okay, can you see that?
We can.
Okay, good. We can also under the theme styles, we can affect form fields too, but as far as I understand it, it's only going to be the Elementor forms. I tend to use gravity forms 99.9% of the time, and there are other Elementor add-ons that help you style gravity forms specifically. I use ultimate add-ons for Elementor to where you can change all kinds of stuff, and we'll see what we can change here. We can take the make the font size of the label bigger. And again, let's see here. I'm going to turn over a new leaf here. Going to start doing rims right out of the gate. So we might make it a little heavier. So we'll do that, and then we can change the color of the label, which is not working. Let's go back. Just going to clear the cache again here. Okay, so Well, I'm not sure why that's not working. So,
Gary,
yes, sir.
leave the color in orange, please. Right there, the global orange, right. So update. Go back to the editor. Click on the form. Go to style. And there you have the color, see? You have set the color. Click on the, no. Click on the gray and click on the back arrow, on the circular arrow. Okay, you have reset it. No, go ahead and reset it. No. You're setting it up in orange for these four. Click on the orange square. Click on the right there, clear that. Okay, perfect. Now click elsewhere so you close that pop-up. Okay, why is it taking that gray by default? Okay, you have, click on the blue icon, please. Yeah. Why is not resetting the orange? It should reset to orange. Because
Well, it's not, it's, let's go back to,
create another form, drop another form. Another form icon. That's something weird.
yeah.
Go back to the global settings, please. Forms. Is that blue or white? The globe.
This is blue.
That's blue. Should be taking it.
Yeah. I think it's a caching.
Why
thing.
don't you deactivate the caching plugin?
Oh, I don't use a caching plugin. This is done by it's the server level.
Oh, okay.
So. Well, I'll need to get,
You could just try to reload the page. It sometimes helps.
yeah, that's what I did before, and I had experienced that earlier today. And you're right, it does. But it doesn't appear to be wanting to help now.
Can you not clear the server cache?
I'm sorry?
Can you not clear the server cache?
Yeah, then when I clear the cache, what I did a moment ago, that is clearing the server cache.
I think Oscar was right with what he was trying to do, and I don't know why that globe is not clearing when you reset it. That's the issue. The theme builder is it's kind of the fallback, and what happens on those labels, it looks like they were individually assigned to a color from global colors, but usually the reset clears that, and I'm not sure why the reset didn't clear that. So that's kind of, I think, the issue here.
Yeah.
I find this in Elementor a lot, and it kind of gets frustrating. I get into these kind of sticky situations like this all the time. And I especially for some reason with buttons and form fields where I get into kind of weirdness. So I think there might be some bugs, on here that crop up from time to time. And I don't know why. It could be that server caching. It could be something else, but I pull my hair out all the time on these.
Yeah, I definitely get bugs too. Yeah.
I wish I could do that, Mark. Pull my hair.
Yeah. You already pulled all yours out is what happened.
I'm at a
You've been
big
doing it longer than me.
disadvantage. I'm at a big disadvantage.
Yeah.
Me too. Well, I can pull my hair down here.
I'm sure I'll be joining y'all soon.
I look like you're in pretty good shape there.
But you know what I wanted to say is the theme builder isn't one thing we didn't really talk about is the theme builder is important if you use things that are not Elementor, because that is the default for the theme. So you're kind of setting your theme defaults. So if you don't have Elementor control over something, and there happens to be a form, like let's say you're retrofitting somebody's site, there happens to be like a contact form 7 or something on there, I'm not sure if that one specifically is affected. I know Gravity Forms has its own styling, but if you use any kind of thing that has some kind of default form that's outside of Elementor, it'll pick up those styles. So, but I have this devil of a time getting all this stuff set up to be coordinated right.
Do me a favor, Kerry. What theme are you using?
I'm using Astra theme.
Astra. Okay, go to Elementor. Click on Elementor, go to settings. And okay, disable default colors and disable font. Disable default fonts. Those must be checked. So the colors that you define on the site settings go to your theme. Otherwise, if they are not checked, the colors defined by the theme take dominance over Elementor. This is just to invert that. The problem is that this is not really well phrased on Elementor. Check.
Yeah, because the way I read this and is it says checking this box will disable Elementor's default colors, which I would take that to be the global colors, and make Elementor inherit the colors from your theme, which I would take that to mean, in my case, Astra.
Check. Let's try it. Check both.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I think I had them checked earlier today when I was playing with this.
Oscar, the problem I had when I used Astra, because I've kind of switched most things to Hello, but when I used Astra, is that some things were weirdly defined within Astra, like buttons. And so if you have it so that the theme overrides Elementor, I was having problems where I would set things in Elementor and I couldn't even get them to stick because Astra had defined something. And so there is some weirdness in Astra, and I forgot what I eventually did to rectify that, but I spent a whole day on it.
That's why I love Hello. That's the only thing you use.
I use nothing but Hello also when I have the chance.
Scroll down.
On one site, that's what I did.
There you go.
I changed the theme to Hello. So
let's get rid of that. Okay, so we put this to rest, that we do want to check them. It looks like.
If you want your theme to control.
If you're going to be messing with these colors and things like that, make sure you have those boxes checked.
If you want the theme to control.
If you want you to control, if you want Elementor to control.
That's right, and that's
That's
what he was saying. Is it's worded very.
It's poorly worded.
It's confusing because
Worse than poorly worded, if what you're saying is true, it's completely backwards.
well,
Yeah.
not exactly. It's a weird way of thinking. When you go back to the settings, yeah, that theme builder, you gotta understand, theme builder is not Elementor's color system. It is just being like the theme. So if you're taking and saying, okay, this is a theme like any WordPress theme, when I'm doing stuff in that theme builder, which are those 4 where it has I forgot what they were, but it has buttons and go back to that theme builder. Yeah.
No, it's actually
Site
the
settings. Yeah. Theme style. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything in theme style is really setting up these kind of WordPress basics for the theme. And so it's
That's a good way to put it.
And it took me forever to figure out these relationships. And then the design system is on top of that. So depending on how you set those boxes, you're determining which one has priority. And I honestly still don't have a best practices on this. I kind of think what I do in my design system is I'll like set my colors and fonts, and then for fonts, I'll actually make like an H1, H2, H3, and then try to map all that stuff so that it's equal with the theme system, and then kind of handle my things generally in the design system and let the other be a fallback. But I don't know. I honestly don't know what the best practice is, which is part of why I'm here today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And,
think it's a great topic for a future meetup, definitely.
Well, I have spent more hours on this interplay than anything else in terms of wasting my time. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So how would we frame that question or that issue if we did want to do a meetup on it? What would we just say we're going to talk about?
I've gone into that discussion several times, and we never came up with a good wording for that.
Yeah, I don't, I mean, you could say theme style versus design system, but still,
But which is better? Wait, I mean, yeah.
my
What are
view
we
is somebody somewhere has got to have the right answer.
Well, you kind of have both. And if you have a situation where Elementor is not in full control of the site, you have to use that theme style. Like that has to be there. So I do feel a best practice should kind of incorporate that, or you'll end up having to switch all your practices if you end up with something where you've got some, some forum, let's say, that's plugged into it that's not, not anything to do with Elementor, and that's
Right.
using your same theme.
Like we just dealt with.
Exactly. I think that's the framework for best practices right there. Is start with Elementor and then set your defaults just in case it doesn't pull from Elementor.
Yeah, I still end up with problems, but
Well, I think what Mark said kind of gives me a direction. The idea of it. These are sort of the basic WordPress. I mean, this is sort of the base, and these are getting more granular in the Elementor settings. Does that sound like a good way to describe it?
yeah, to me, I think about it when I'm doing the theme style as if I'm actually editing that style.css file in a WordPress theme back when I used to make them. And I think, okay, here's like when I'm in that. And then everything else I think is Elementor, which either, depending on those checkboxes, either takes precedent or it doesn't take precedent. But I kind of visualize that CSS sheet in my head. That's just how I think of it.
Right, got you.
My experience, my practice is just define global colors, do not touch global fonts, and work on typography and define all the typography. Because then you don't know what is an H1, an accent, or whatever. So,
Got you. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's pretty reasonable, because when you start doing global fonts and you start doing typography, then they often come into conflict, and you end up with issues where there's too much line space here, and you're wondering where the heck is my line space coming from, and you get all kinds of weirdness.
Okay, good info. So I'm glad we're recording this. So you can watch it and tease out the good bits. So let's see if we can.
do me a favor, Kerry.
Yep.
Drop another button on under the one you have.
Another form?
No, button.
Oh. You just. Okay.
See, they're behaving different. What you have defined on the settings, on the global settings, is the what you have below. The other one, the one with the greater than sign, is touched specifically for this page.
Right. Yeah, because I went in and made the font size bigger, I think. Or no, I think I just made it all uppercase in the actual style.
But wait, don't touch that. Wait. That is, you're doing it for the, okay, yeah, for that one. Go to style and see all the changes. You change typography and you change color.
Right.
That's for that specific button on this specific page.
Right.
Well, you would still want to clear that because you want these to be global. If you're trying to make them global, you know how you've got the little blue
Oh,
pencil.
the global settings
they-
are the ones on the bottom below on the second one.
Right. But I'm talking, you're editing the button itself. And I'm talking about you still have, if you look at you should have hit the reset, I think, instead of just changing that font size. See there with the blue pencil? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
reset
hit
it.
that and then hit reset. Yeah. The default, back to default.
There you go.
Yeah.
Then, and the same thing happened with the pricing table, and the same thing with the animated heading, all that. They're touched specifically for this page. The idea of using the global settings is not having to use the style tab for these purposes on the widgets, on most of the widgets.
Yeah, well, this would be kind of hard to do without that because you've got pretty,
Well, that specifically applies basically for headings, text, links, buttons, forms, and whatever the settings are. There are a lot of other style parameters that you set on the style tab that you have to touch. But the basic ones are leave it on the, rely on the site settings, not on the widget.
right, right.
That's my recommendation.
Yeah. This also helps if you have somebody that's editing the site and they're using, they're using WordPress editor. You want them to be able to like put in an H2 and have it look like the H2 or put in a whatever
Mhm.
and have it look right. So that way, whenever anybody's adding content to it, there's not as much styling that needs to be done with.
Right, right. Okay. So let's see, we have decided,
Reset that color for that widget,
for which widget?
for the amazing. Reset that green. There you go. That's your default. That is your default. If you want it to be green, go to the site settings. Oh, no, it won't happen because there is no global settings for that to change.
Right, yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So that one you have to do it on the widget.
right, right. Because it's such a specific thing. It's. Yeah.
Right. And if you have the same widget 10 times on the website, you're gonna have to go 10 times to it, unless you define it as a global widget.
Right, right.
But that actually makes me wonder, where's that red coming from?
That's a default for the shape on Elementor.
Hmm.
That's the default for from the, yeah, I think it's Elementor, the one who sets that color.
Yeah, yeah, I think you're right. Okay, let me give you a couple of links here. I sent you, well, I'll just put them all in here. Chat. Okay. Going to put 3 pages, 3 links. The text description is above it, and then the URL is below. So, and there's a little thing about the color palette, and then theme style and design system, how they work together, and then it was, the question was asked about part 1. Well, here's the link to the part 1 of this series, which was about starter sites and getting how to have a base for a site, and then you can clone it, hit the ground running with that. So get that. And let me. So still got a few.
Kerry, if I may ask, where did you create that style guide there, or where did you get? Did you just like create it yourself, or did you?
Talking about this.
Yeah, the whole thing we were working on. I was just curious. You just
Um,
lay out a page and set it up, or?
Well, I created, this is an image, or this part is, I created this in
Well,
Illustrator.
I
We
can't
can't
see. I can't see the screen right now, but it's not shared. But I meant the thing we were working on, with the forms on it and the picture and the lists and the and that
You know,
both
this
those.
this is just an image.
Okay.
And just so that we could have a visual reference.
And then what about the
this-
other? Yeah.
Mark, for that, there are several options. And what I personally do is I use that default sample page that WordPress creates every time you install it. And that's the one that I just add the H1, 2, 3, 4 and add the form and add the elements that I'm going to use. And that page I use as my style sheet. That's up.
That's a good idea.
Now, if you're going to have that page as, used in other different websites, to avoid having to create it, you can save it from one of the websites as a template. You export it and then import it on the other website. But keep in mind, it's going to bring the colors that you had initially.
Right. No, thanks. That's a good idea.
Okay. All righty. Well, we're like 1 minute before we have to stop, because we really do try to respect everybody's time. So we've a couple of big takeaways. One, thanks to Oscar, we had a discussion about REMS, and I think we are all on the same page that that's a good idea. And at least for the time being, I guess the consensus is that even though it doesn't make any sense necessarily, or it's not worded right, that we want to check these to get this to work. So,
Yes. Don't forget that this is English translated from Israel. So I don't know.
oh, I didn't know that.
I think it's just a confusing thing to label. I mean, I've thought of different ways of phrasing it, and I mean, it tries to explain it, but it's just a hard thing to explain.
Yeah, it's more confusing.
Yeah.
Well,
Alrighty, everybody.
Forget about what it says. Forget about what it says. Make sure you check them.
Yeah.
Well,
Regardless of what it's raised.
I really appreciate not only you guys and gals showing up, but also the participation of Oscar and Mark and Nikkei and Dennis. And if I've missed somebody, sorry. But I think we learned some stuff today, and
That's what we're here for.
yeah.
absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
And the stuff that we got confused on.
Well, sometimes that's how you learn stuff. You get.
You want to stop the recording?
Your garage door just closed.
Mark was talking about how that he's been banging his head against the wall a whole day on something. I've done that. We've all done that a million times, but we usually at the end of a day or two come away with, have learned something. So that's okay.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
Yeah. So
But thank you everyone for coming out. You guys have been great. I'm gonna say sayonara, and I'll see you guys next time.
okay.
Sayonara.
Thanks,
Everybody,
everybody.
take care.
Thank you for
Thanks
good
again.
learning. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Bye bye.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good meeting. Stop the recording, Carrie.